Hi everybody. Okay, so I'm going to do the long-awaited video, which is book recommendations. Pardon me. I need to kind of apologise because I've had a lot of people ask me for book recommendations and I've been meaning to do a video, but I've had a couple of friends borrow some books that I wanted to recommend and I kind of wanted to show them to you. And so I just sort of want to apologise I haven't got around to it, and I've actually made other videos. But it's finally here, finally awaited some book reviews. Okay, so first off, in terms of traditional witchcraft, if you want to actually, you want to start practicing or reading, you need to know about the historical, the historical traditional witchcraft, which is why this book is brilliant, and it's called Wicked Enchantments, A History of the Pendle Witches and Their Magic by Joyce Froome. And it's a really good book, it's an amazing book actually. It's all charms, it's not just about the Pendle Witches, it's charms of cunning men, old cunning men, wise women. It's got some witchcraft in it. It's just brilliant, it's really good. The author clearly knows her stuff, and there's so much research that's gone into this book. It talks about certain magical squares that can be used, and it's just awesome. I really enjoyed this book. As well, it's a good sort of history about the Pendle Witches as well, but it's just awesome. I love it. I love this book. So it's not just about the Pendle Witches, it's also about Gilderay, loads of other famous witches that have gone down in history, basically. But I would recommend reading up on the history of traditional witchcraft, obviously, reading up on the charms that occurred and the spells and all of that. And it's a good book to read on. So again, Wicked Enchantments, read it. Honest to God, you'll love it. It's so historically accurate as well, it's good. The author really has done their research. Sorry, I'm going to stop raving about this book, but it is good. Another book that I'd recommend is the Robert Cochran Letters, An Insight into Modern Traditional Witchcraft by Robert Cochran and Evan John Jones. And it's not by them, but it kind of is, obviously, because they wrote the letters. But Robert Cochran and Evan John Jones, and it's edited and introduced by Michael Howard. Now, a lot of techniques that Cochran has came up with, like the red mill, the hoozle, stuff like that, treading the mill has been incorporated into a lot of traditional witchcraft. He was a magister of the clan of Cochran, and it's all writings, correspondences, poetry, and just things that have inspired him in the clan of Cochran, basically just all his ideas as well. He's got a lot of Kabbalistic ideas as well. It's just a good book. It's a really, really good book to read. And if you are getting into traditional witchcraft, you should read this. Just to know where things come from that you're practicing, because it's important to know that. But yeah, the Robert Cochran Letters, An Insight into Modern Traditional Witchcraft. There's also another, there's an anthology of the Robert Cochran tradition called The Roebuck and the Thicket. It's Roebuck and the Thicket. Yeah, Roebuck and the Thicket. And you should read that, it's a pretty good book as well. But yeah, honest to God, anything to do with Cochran you should read if you just get into tradecraft. Now, a really good book for somebody who's just somebody who's getting introduced to witchcraft, A Grimoire for Modern Cunning Folk by Peter Padden. This book is so good. I find with a lot of traditional witchcraft, the author already assumes, what one of my friends said the other night, the author already assumes that you know things about traditional witchcraft, whereas, Peter Padden, basically. This is a introductory book to traditional craft. And as well, I find some authors, not all, but some authors tend to really just go on, and there's no need for it. And I think this sort of, some of the stuff you can read on traditional witchcraft, you'll read it and you'll just be like, oh, I need some paracetamol, because it just sounds very, very confusing. And just sort of darts everywhere and touches on everything. And I think, you know, with this book, it's basic and simplified. And it's a good book. It really is a good book. I can't rate this book enough, actually. He's basically the Magister of the Briar Rose Coven, and they're sort of in like a Welsh tradition. And it's sort of stuff that this is a book he describes as the exercises and techniques he would give to a student, basically. And it's just good. It's a good book. It's basic, it's simple, but I think that's what sometimes you need, you know, especially if you're first to get into traditional witchcraft. Definitely, you know, there's sections on the tools. It really is a good book, and I think it's, you know, if you're first starting into traditional witchcraft, get this. It goes into laying the compass, treading the mill. It gives exercises for that as well, and it's a really good book. I can't recommend that enough. Another good book is The Call of the Horned Piper by Nigel Jackson. Now, Nigel Jackson has also written a various other number of books. Masks of Misrule as well is one, which is basically just various different aspects of the witch god, and sort of it gives rituals as well. It's an okay book, it's good, but the illustrations and pictures in this are really, really pretty, yeah, it's just really beautiful illustrations, very witchy, but it basically touches on witch lore. It touches on familiar spirits, witch marks as well, initiations, spirit threads and knots, tools, and it gives you, hollowing and casting the compass, the ritual for that, the hollowing the witch tools, and it's a good book, it's proper, just get your hands stuck in witchcraft, and I think that's why I like it, and it's just a really good book. Yeah, you should totally buy this book. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it as well. Another book I can recommend. I'd recommend Robin Artisan, The Horn of Evenwood, and I haven't got that book with me, but I have read it, and it's a really good book. It's basically, I think it's called A Grimoire of Sorcerous Operations, or something like that, but it's awesome. It's pretty good. He's basically just sort of gives all different spells. It'll be the preparation of the sword, preparation of fire, merging with your familiar, working with the fetch beasts, stuff like that, calling in the horned one, and it's just a good book because it's a good book as an example. It's sort of like it would be a really good guideline to go along if you are to do rituals and stuff like that and spells. It would be a really good guideline to go along and sort of, take reference from it. It'd be a really good guidelines of using ritual, and I think, The Horn of Evenwood, I haven't got it with me, but it is a very good book. I did enjoy it. There's The Witching Way of the Hollow Hill by Robin Artisan, and I did do a book review on that. However, I think a lot of people must have thought that I was completely slating the book down. I wasn't completely slating the book down. What I was saying is, it didn't get to the point for me. It went off track quite a lot, and I found it quite a bit, I don't know, I just found it quite stressful to sort of read, because I think it didn't get to the point, and I think, what he said in 10 paragraphs, he could have summed up in one. But I'm not going to sit and slate it down completely, because there's really good rituals in there. He shows you the ritual for the red mill. The Who's always shows you the ritual for laying a compass. All the ritualistic part of it is brilliant. It's really good to help from, and it's definitely put new things and incorporated new things into my path. So I think you should get this book, and it is a good book. Yeah, it is. You know, it talks about different directions of the compass, stuff like that. So I do, you know, I'm not slating it down completely. You should get it, you know, but just sort of be warned that for me, I found that he went off track quite a lot. That's all. Another, a quite nice, light little read to read. One of my friends has lent me this. It's Light from the Shadows, a mythos of modern traditional witchcraft by Gwen. And it basically just, it's an account of traditional witchcraft and is, you know, done his research and talked to different, you know, over several covens and clans across Britain. And he basically, the whole book kind of compares it with Wicca. But it talks about the tools, the gods, entering the compass round or circle, passing power, healing, cursing, hexing. I'm reading the blurb, by the way. Necromancy, shapeshifting, familiar spirits, spirit guides, elementals, self-protection. And there's a big bit on the Wheel of the Year in there. But it's an okay read, you know, it's alright to read. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a good read. But I mean, definitely, you know, all these books you should read because they are pretty good. And the other ones that I have recommended you should read because they've all really helped me in my path and they've all really, yeah, they've put something different into my practice and new perspectives into my practice. And just to, you know, before I go, I just want to say, with all these books, take them with a pinch of salt and a guideline for how you should practice. You know, not everything that's put in books is gospel. It's not completely gospel, and I wouldn't take it as gospel. You know, in terms of the ritual outlines and stuff like that, make it personal to you, because you know, you'll read one book and the way they lay a compass will be completely different. Like, for instance, the way Nigel Jackson lays a compass is completely different from the way, say, Robin Artison will lay a compass, or, you know, Peter Paddon's coven will lay a compass. It's going to all be different, you know, and it's going to be all different, slightly different techniques. So make it personal and just use it as a good guideline. It's good to go from the book when you first start practicing, it is, but then of course delve into your own practice and draw from your own things, and if they work, and if they don't, they don't. But you should definitely you know, read all these books, but know that each traditional practice is going to be completely different from another's, and you know, it's what works for them, basically. But yeah, you should totally all read these books. I hope these book reviews have helped, and yeah, I hope they really do help. And any more questions, ask. And I'm so glad that I've finally done this book recommendation video because it's been a while, and I'm sorry. I've just been so busy, and as I said, a couple of mates have borrowed some of the books. So, but yeah, I hope you guys are okay, and over and out. Peace.